Hey guys, what's up? Steve here. Just wanted to do a quick video. I did a post earlier from a friend who was kind of talking about what to do for some weight loss stuff and kind of just gave her the rundown, and I wanted to make a video post about it. Um, Really, the biggest thing for fat loss comes down to dietary carbohydrates, and that's because of the role insulin plays. Insulin being the most dominant factor in whether your body's going to store um, body fat or if it's going to burn body fat. It really comes down to insulin. So, um, insulin's primarily driven by the amount of glucose, blood sugar, um, and the insulin's going to kick up to try to get that blood sugar and shuttle it into the cells to be used or stored as fat. So, if your primary interest is to just lose body fat, then what you're looking to do is decrease the carbohydrates that you eat, because that's going to lower the blood sugar, which is going to lower the insulin um, and its kind of fat storing effects. So if you're eating about 0 to 50 grams a day of carbohydrates, that's going to be in kind of the ketosis phase. It's not recommended for people very long term. Usually ketosis is kind of there's some there's a lot of science back and forth on the benefits of ketosis. Some say that it's great. Some say that once you convert, which takes about 2 to 3 weeks, to burning primarily ketone bodies, then you're good to go. Other science saying your brain needs the glucose, and it's a primary use of the glucose is incredibly important. So people go back and forth on it, but short term works phenomenally well. There's some good books about fasting and ketosis and the benefits of kind of getting your hormones back in the proper line through intermittent fasting. But it's definitely not recommended for the obese and type 2 diabetic specifically. It can do a lot of damage if you do. So plus it also unnecessarily deprives you of a lot of good healthy vegetables and fruits. So it's not the go-to. It's not where you want to play for long term. 50 to 100 grams a day, excuse me, is kind of the sweet spot for weight loss. You're in that zone, 50 to 100 grams. You're going to see steady drops in your body fat. You're going to see minimal insulin production, which is going to, again, the primary hormone you want to be concerned with when you're trying to drop body fat. You're looking at probably 1 to 2 pounds a week of fat, and it's really not super restrictive if you're thinking about, like, lean meats, veggies, fruits, nuts and seeds, that kind of thing. Maybe even getting away with a little bit of sweet potato or some things like that. You can push up into the 100 grams, but pretty easy to push over the 100-gram mark, and that's kind of the upper limit of if you want to lose body fat. Once you get over to 100, 150 grams of carbs a day, grams of carbohydrates a day, and this is not just sugar, this is just carbohydrates, that's going to be kind of the maintenance zone. You're going to stay about the same body fat. Once you get to your goal, you'll kind of bump it up to 100, 150 grams a day, and that'll be pretty easy. You can eat pretty much any vegetables and fruit that you want, but over that 150 to 300 gram range, you're going to be getting fatter. That's just the bottom line. You are going to have issues with blood sugar. You're going to have issues with hormones, ghrelin, leptin, insulin, cortisol. Excuse me. All of these different hormones are going to play a huge factor when you're eating 150 to 300 grams of carbohydrates a day. You're going to feel awful, and that's going to be counterproductive for what you're trying to do. So most people are eating in this range, 150 to 300 grams a day. They'll drop down to about 150, not see the results they're looking for, and kind of abandon ship and think that they're eating, kind of go back to this low-fat diet. But it's low fat. It's kind of counterproductive. We can get into that another time, but right now I just want to stick to the carbohydrates. 300 grams a day is a pretty typical American diet. You're eating a lot of grains, a lot of processed foods, cereals, pastas. Um, you know, you won't be able to outwork that diet. There is no exercise program on earth that can override that diet. You will get sick, you will get fatter, and you will feel awful. That's just the bottom line. So, if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose body fat, you have to get your carbohydrates down to at least 50 to 100 grams. Atkins says 20 for the first 2 weeks, and then he says to bump it up, or said to bump it up after that. But the first 2 weeks was less than 20 a day. Now, 20 a day, that's brutal, because now you're talking only eating meat and cheese. Pretty much no vegetables, which, you know, again, you can do for a little while, like the ketosis. You're going to be in ketosis, and that's kind of the point of Atkins, is to get into ketosis. Not to be confused with ketoacidosis, which I got into a huge argument with some nutritionists and dietitians about. It's not the same, but anyway, ketosis works, and it works really, really well. And like I said, there's science back and forth on that. So if you want to kind of avoid all that and play in a sweet spot, 50 to 100 grams a day. I say 50 to 75. It kind of differs for different people, and depending on what you're doing, your activities, and you gotta kind of have to play around with it. But for the person I was talking to about this whole thing, I was suggesting to them 75. They were at about 100 and kind of plateaued a little bit. I'm thinking knock it down just a little bit, kind of get and time it a little bit better before and after her workouts. That would be more ideal than trying to spread that 100 grams throughout the day. You don't really need to do all that. So anyway, the sweet spot here, guys, 50 to 100 grams. Play with it a little bit. And again, if you're getting it primarily through vegetables, lean meats, a little bit of fruit, like berries, ideally berries are pretty good for the whole thing. Bananas not so great, but you know, lean meat, vegetables, fruits, and nuts and seeds. You can't go wrong. There isn't a whole lot of very many nutritionists that would disagree with that, unless you're hardcore vegetarian and vegan, which we'll have to save for another time. Those discussions, because I disagree. But anyway, think about it, consider it. 50 grams a day is pretty tough. It can get kind of tough. And keep in mind too, there was a really interesting study back in the 20s, I want to say it was 20s, that right around the time that vitamins were first being discovered. So there was this idea that if you ate only meat and vegetables pretty sparingly, that you would have a vitamin deficiency. And the study kind of looked at two things. How long does it take your body to adapt to this kind of relatively low carbohydrate deal? And also, are you going to be vitamin deficient? And I'll have to look up, see, I want to say his name was Stephenson, some Nordic adventurers in the northern Canada area got stuck and had to live off the diet that the locals were eating. And they found that it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to convert, to switch over to burning ketosis effectively, and kind of get out of that feeling horrible, tired, groggy, can't think straight phase of this low carbohydrate thing. So, and then as for the other point, the vitamins, they were totally fine. You can probably pretty much get most of your, just about all, except for, I want to say C, vitamin C, which you don't really need a whole lot of if you're not eating a lot of carbohydrates. When you eat higher carbohydrates, you need the C to help absorb some of the other nutrients. So when you don't eat a lot of high carb diet, processed foods, you don't need as much C. So anyway, 50 to 100 grams, give it 2 to 3 weeks at least. Don't abandon ship too early. It does work. A lot of these ideas are kind of a throwback too. So if you look Really good book about the history of this kind of the two competing hypotheses of low fat diet versus low carb diet. The book Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes. I think that's how you say his name. Phenomenal book. Kind of dense, but worth the read. So if you want to know the history and the politics behind how we got to this crazy low-fat diet thing, go ahead and read that book. Check it out. But in the short term, just take my word for it. I've trained thousands of people. I was a founder of CrossFit Costa Mesa. Trained literally thousands of people through those doors, and I can guarantee you 50 to 100 grams a day carbohydrates, you will drop body fat. So, all right, that's it for now. And feel free to comment, leave any comments, likes, share, whatever. I'm trying to build this thing up a little bit. So feel free to ask questions too. Happy to answer any questions. And cool, rock on.